need for marketplaces is always felt in a booming economic environment to facilitate the easy buying and selling of commodities. Along these lines, we have an AMA with the founder of one of India's biggest real estate platforms. He will also discuss the customer mindset shift to online transactions over physical and offline transactions.
For the first session of the day, we have a candid conversation with the founder of NoBroker.com, Mr. Amit Agarwal. NoBroker eliminated agents in real estate transactions and has served over 16 million customers. Mr. Agarwal is an IIT Kanpur and IIM Ahmedabad alumnus and has previously worked as an associate director at Australian New Zealand Bank, among several years of experience at various consulting firms. Mr. Agarwal will be answering a host of questions from the audience, covering his experience as a founder and his insights on the ecosystem and its growth along the way. Looking forward to hearing your take on the question, sir. Over to you, Pranit.
Thank you so much, Sarthak. Thank you so much, Shay. So, sir, to be frank, we are so honored to have you in our midst. Being an IIT Kanpur, IIM Ahmedabad alumnus, your journey educational has been inspiration, and now your journey starting up and creating, India's first prop tech unicorn has also been very inspirational. So, jumping into the panel, into the session, let me quickly ask you your journey to becoming India's first prop tech startup and achieving unicorn status. It could not have been easy.
Sure. So, guys, my objective in today's session is not to basically give a long uh, monologue about what No Broker does and what our journey is. Yes, I surely want to basically talk about No Broker. My main objective in today's session is to basically communicate that uh, what is it that is involved in entrepreneurship. Should you take a plunge or not? When should you take a plunge? Should you have a co-founder or not? So any questions that you have, I'm more interested in that. See, uh, you can always know about my journey from many YouTube videos or articles. I'm more interested in adding value to you guys because we are having a live conversation. So I'll be happy. Be happy to talk about No Brokerhood. And after that, my request to all of you would be to ask me any question that basically bothers you. The more personal it is, the more blunt it is, the better it is. And even if it is insulting, that's fine. So with that background, let me just talk about No Broker. So I am an engineer, just like many of you, and I did coding for 2 years. I was working with Cognizant, and then I did my MBA. I cleared CAT, and after Ahmedabad, I worked in management consulting for many years, and I enjoyed management consulting. I was with PwC Consulting, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of travel and stress, but somehow it suited me. And after that, I basically, because I was consulting banks and financial services, so I joined ANZ Bank. Now, ANZ Bank was a very, very comfortable bank. So it's a foreign bank, a very rich bank, good salary, not much work, very good work-life balance. And after working there for 2 years, I realized that the life is getting very comfortable. And hence the question was that, do I really want to do this, which is basically being comfortable, getting good salary, and working for someone else, or do I want to basically take some risk? And I remember I was basically giving interview. I was trying for other companies, and I was giving an interview in another company, and I met the CEO. And when he interviewed me, I noticed basically a quote on the wall which was written, and the quote was by Mark Zuckerberg, and the quote basically said that not taking any risk in life is the biggest risk. And you just think about it that when you don't take any risk, you do not know what is it that you have missed, because you are trying to basically take minimal risk and have a more and more comfortable life, but in the pursuit of that you are letting go all the possibilities which life can offer. And I'm saying that taking risk is whether you are proposing to your girlfriend or whether you are preparing for some tough task, or whether you are taking risk to prepare for a musical instrument or for a sports. I think unless you take some risk, unless you take some plunge, it's very difficult to expect disproportionately high rewards. So with that objective, So I did not take that job. I basically got that job and I declined. And I basically said that if this guy, what the code says makes sense, and if this guy can do it, should I try to basically give it a chance? And I'd already, I think the good age, or one of the good age to do your own business is when you are in 20s or in early 30s. I was already in my late 30s at that point of time, and I felt that I'm already getting late. If I basically take more time, then I will be stuck in pursuing higher salary jobs and then taking more homes and more EMIs, and then you basically build a life around it, which I wanted to not get into. And just like the electron basically orbits in a particular orbit, I felt that if I don't change my orbit now, I will be stuck in this orbit, doing comfortably well, but this is a time to basically risk to go to another orbit. So with that background in mind, I left my job. It was, and when you leave your job, lots of people call you and they congratulate you, but then they get on busy with their life, and then you are alone thinking that, hey, had I gone to office today, I would have made so much money. But finally you are alone trying to set up some business, trying to make a website, and very few customers who are coming. Investors were not very much interested because somehow in real estate, not many, no big company had come up. So it was, so the question was that, can somebody really make big in real estate? Isn't this a very tough category? And for people who haven't heard about No Broker, let me just give a background. So what we as customers basically felt was, so my batchmate from Ahmedabad and junior from IT, we three are co-founders, and we basically had rented flats while we were doing jobs, and we found very odd, why should we pay so much money to a broker? Why should we be paying a month of brokerage to a broker? And why shouldn't basically why can't technology connect with each other? So today, if I can send a friend request to anybody in the world, then why can't I basically connect with a tenant, with the owner, or with the buyer, for real estate? And why do I need this physical broker who just has our phone number and is trying to push us into a deal? Why is there not a technology in this? Now the question, investors did not investors understood that yes, this seems to be a good idea from the perspective that brokers nobody loves, but they were not convinced. And what basically they said is that, are you copying some big US company? Are you copying some big Chinese company? Is it Amazon, copy of Amazon? Is it a copy of Uber? And we said no. So actually there is no other company in the world which does non brokerage at such a uh, big level, neither today nor 8 years back. And the question was that, hey, if it's such a good idea, then why isn't somebody in US or China already doing it? How come you guys only have this idea, and why hasn't it been tried before? And if there was, there must be something, some problematic thing in this. He said, hey, we just want to have a platform where owners can post their property. We'll ban the brokers through algorithm, and we'll allow tenants and buyers to come on the platform and interact directly with the owners. And we will keep it free, and for value added services, we'll charge. Uh, so this was our assumption, but we did not find many takers, and we went around looking for funding, and it was not possible. So 1 year we struggled. My wife is my batchmate from IT Kanpur, and we were expecting our kid, so it was a very bad time to start something of my own. So from a timing perspective, it was very bad. uh, but we did take the plunge. And then finally, and then there's a large real estate company which got funded, which you know about, 7 8 years back, and their funding also had a negative impact on our funding. But finally, one investors, Elevation, which was known as SAF, they trusted us and they gave us $3 million, which was 18 crore at that point of time. And we started our business. We did not take a corporate office, we took a home, and we started our business. And then one day we got attacked by brokers. So we were basically doing our own stuff. We had taken a house, and we suddenly saw 70 80 brokers standing outside the office, and they wanted to break computers. They wanted to beat our employees because they were getting threatened that we are going to take away their business. And we called, they slapped couple of employees. The female employees started crying, and we called police. But the finally the police took us in the jeep to the police station. The brokers were still there. So the brokers have better connection with local police than we had. and thankfully we had an iron grill door, which our teammates basically closed, so the brokers couldn't enter. But we could not function there, so we had to almost overnight with no notice we had to leave. So the call center, so the website was in place, but the call center, etc., everything basically took a halt, and we had to post a note that we are experiencing issues in terms of servicing. And even when we vacated and took our stuff back, in the night, the vehicle was chased by the brokers in the night, trying to figure out as to where our new office is. We basically stayed in temporary offices for a few months, two different offices, uh, barely being able to manage. And then finally we took office. And even today, we try to hide our Google address, our office address. We don't have any facade. But I think what our investors basically felt is that it means that we are making some change. We are doing some disruption. That's why we are facing this backlash. So slowly our customers increased, and we kept on doing what we were doing. But after some time, the large real estate company that I was talking to you about, they imploded because of the some things which happened between the founder and the investors. And because they did not do well, so investors did not want to fund us. And we said, hey, what's our fault here? We are doing our job well, our numbers are good. But investors basically felt that kuch to chakkar hai real estate mein. And a lot of basically investors had put money in that company, so their hands were burned. So basically, for the first year of No Broker, we could not get any money from any other Indian investor apart from the first investor who kept on trusting us. So we, so I think the real test of entrepreneurship is not when you have lots of money, but when you don't have much money. So we use the so-called cockroach startup approach, where we said we have to survive, just don't die. And we went around. We found some small investor in Singapore, some investor in Japan, some new investor in South Korea, and we took 1 million from here and there, and we survived for the next 5 years. So in the first 5 years, but our numbers kept on growing because customers kept on coming. And C2C is a very difficult business, right? If you have a B2C, so suppose if you want to do a B2C for mobile phones, you can tie up with manufacturer mobile phones. You can do some digital marketing. You can get some customers. You tie with a logistics company and you start selling the mobile phones. But for C2C, it's much more difficult because you for a house in Bandra, you need to get a 2 BHK house in Bandra on a street for 50,000 rupees. You need to get the property, and then on the same street for the same budget, for the same week of the month, you need to get a tenant or a buyer. Corresponding matchmaking. So very micro locality matchmaking. So it takes lots of years to basically develop that micro locality. Otherwise, you'll have a tenant in this locality but a owner in this locality, so they are not matchmaking. So it's a painful building of the business. But when the matchmaking happens, then it's beautiful, because then you basically save money, huge amount of money. No broker is required. Uh, Finally, after 5 years, with our numbers growing, uh, General Atlantic and Tiger Global basically they put money. So they put so till now, in the 8 years, we have raised around 3,000 crore rupees from the top investors in the world. We have around 4,000 employees across, with main center in Bangalore. We have cumulative 1.8 crore customers registered so far. We add zero point 0.6 crore new customers per year. We are India's number one in terms of real estate. We are far ahead of 19 acres, Magic Bricks, everybody. Uh, we are the first prop tech unicorn, which we became last year. And we, from real estate, we started more businesses, so we are now India's number one aggregator of packers and movers. India's largest packers and movers we run with the help of our vendors. We are very large in painting, in cleaning, in AC services. We are launching. We have home interior services. We help customers get home loan, furniture on rental, so legal documentation, rental agreement. So now I've heard of lots of things. Uh, so yeah, so that's basically synopsis of of my journey. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
So that is a very inspirational journey, sir. And let's move on to the AMA session and let's see what the audience has to ask you and what they're interested in. So the first question that I can see that Akshat Nagpal has put up, a question from Mr. Amit, working on a C2C marketplace model in the early days. How did you solve the chicken and egg problem of marketplaces? How did you get demand without any initial supply or vice versa?
So I think the trick here is to do exactly opposite of what e-commerce companies are doing. So e-commerce companies basically launch in lots of cities, right? Because for them, sending a mobile phone or sending a t-shirt is basically just a logistical problem. So they can serve a customer in Meerut, they can serve a customer in Ranchi, and they can serve a customer in Bombay. There's no issue. But this is exactly what you should not do in a C2C marketplace, right? Because a guy who is in trying to find a property in Kormangla in Bangalore, or say in sector 11 in Dwarka, he does not care whether you have a branch in Lucknow. He doesn't care. He only cares about his own problem. That can you get me a flat there? And hence we basically took a 180-degree reverse approach. We said we are going to expand very slowly. So, and this is something which all our competitors got it wrong. And we just used common sense, and we said that, hey, unless my customer in one city is happy, how can I launch more cities? So I would say that if you are doing something similar, which is a marketplace, start very small. Don't even take entire city. Take one locality where you live. Because if you take one locality, you can even distribute pamphlets, you can do manual things to basically generate demand and supply and basically do the matchmaking. So the objective is to make the problem very small. So you can crack that problem, you can showcase to yourself and to investors that this works. Otherwise, you are basically stuck in getting demand, supply for this area, that area, then it's very difficult. And thankfully, for solving the chicken and this problem, I think there are many cities like Bangalore which have huge amount of initial adopters, initial customers who are forgiving to startups, who want to try new startup ideas as a consumer. And they, because a city like Bangalore basically has lots of startup, a lot of new things keep on coming. So the customers are much more friendly in terms of trying something new, much more experimental. So then start with a city like this or with a locality like this, which has more youngish population or more IT population, which will adopt you. So that's how you basically start, and then you start slow and then you expand.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Um, you found a very real customer pain point and solved it using technology. So how did you identify this problem? How did you evaluate startup ideas when you got them?
So I would basically say two things mainly. One is that what is the customer problem? Have you really experienced it yourself, or have you spoken to enough customers who have experienced it? So, because see, what will happen is no matter what startup idea you start with, you are going to face huge amount of doubts. And living in insecurity, anxiety, fear is is a very common trait of any founder. People may or may not admit it to you, but all the founders are very anxious and very scared, right? Because that's why so many businessmen wear so many rings, right? You have seen many businessmen wearing rings because they don't know where the competition is going to come, who's going to take away their shop, whether somebody will set another plant. So lots of it's not like studies where you study well and you get A star or A, right? It's lot of samdam dandbhet sab kuch hai. So my customers don't care whether I am from IIM Ahmedabad or IT. They don't care a damn. If they don't get a house, the site is shit. so, so what basically matters is that how you respond to customer problem. So what we did was that when we started, people said that this idea will not work. They said this idea will not work because it hasn't worked anywhere else in the world. And nowhere in the world has customer ever prepaid for services in real estate. People always pay when the work is done. आप broker को पैसा तब देते हो जब काम हो जाता है. पहले कौन देता है? तो no broker को पहले कौन देगा? So we said, okay, let me just ask customers. So we spoke to lots of customers. We said that, will you pay for a service where you save a 1 month brokerage? Will you pay 2,000 rupees? That, yeah, I will pay. Will you pay in advance? Yes, if there's enough confidence, we'll pay. So we said, okay, we will take this plunge and we will have this trust that, okay, if we build a platform strong enough, people will start paying. So two things. One, startup that ask customers. Investor is not a decision maker. Your friends are not the decision maker. Customers are decision maker. So speak to a lot of customers and especially strangers, because your friends will give you biased opinion. Either they will be polite to you or they will be jealous of you. So hence the opinion will differ. Ask strangers. One is this. Second is market size, because the question was that at what do you, how do you also evaluate the startup ideas? So we only look at two things: the problem real, the problem that you are solving, is that big enough problem? Does I understand that problem? And second is the market size big? Because if the market is small, you are solving a very niche problem, then perhaps it's not a VC fundable business. Then you should just, आपको कोई मिठाई समोसे की दुकान लगानी है, so प्रॉब्लम माइट बी गुड कि अच्छा समोसा नहीं है उस एरिया में, आप बना लो, लेकिन वीसी फंडेबल नहीं है आइडिया, सो देन आई विल नॉट इन्वेस्ट देयर. The idea is profitable, go ahead and do it. If I invest, or if any investor wants to put his money, then the idea should be scalable, should be large. It can only be large when the market size is very large. So these two things I would say.
Okay, let's move to the next question. Aditya Jayant asks, buying a new house is one of the most important decisions of one's life. Do you believe that people will trust machine learning or a platform over brokers with years of experience and knowledge?
No, they, consumer don't trust, consumer don't care what algo you have used. So you basically see TikTok or ShareChat, they use some algo behind it. You don't go to this platform, or you don't go to Instagram, to this platform because you think their algo is better. You go there because the content that you get appeals to you. If it doesn't appeal to you, move somewhere else. So they don't care what's going behind. So our objective is to basically make the information as transparently available as there it is. We don't want to intervene too much. So our objective is that, not that we need to do something cool like machine learning or AI. Of course, we do that because it solves a problem. But we are thinking about customer. Customer को फायदा कुछ हो रहा है क्या सबसे? वरना क्या क्या जरूरत है करने की? So our objective is a customer. How do we use machine learning and AI? That if a customer comes, he looks for 2 BHK in a particular locality, and then goes away. The next time he comes, he uses these breadcrumbs that he has left last time. We use these digital breadcrumbs to serve him matching properties the next time. That's what we do. We are not asking them to search, to trust us with some complicated algo. We are just saying whatever you were searching last time, we are trying to basically show you similar, which is similar to what Netflix says, that the movies that you may like, if you don't like, press somewhere else and search those properties. So I would say that machine learning and AI are a way to make to solve the customer problem better. A business with a focus of using machine learning AI, that I doubt should be the objective. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next question. Abhirav Mishra asks, okay, Akshat Vala asks a question from the YouTube stream. What advice would you give to early stage startup founders on navigating the impeding funding winter?
So see, now there are two separate questions, but I will assume that the question is around funding. So see, there is no doubt that the funding has dried up to some extent. That's not a great news to basically share, but the good news is that the VCs are flush with cash, because they have raised huge amount of money in the past year 2 year. So you look at any top VC in the country, they have raised huge amount of funds in the last year or so. The winter has come more, or has impacted more, of series DEF category. So a 50 million check, a 100 million check, those are the ones which have become more difficult. Yes, the 3 million check, 5 million checks have become lesser, but they have not dried up completely. And there is still a very good chance for a good startup to raise money. Yes, the craziness in the valuations have settled down, but it keeps on happening. So I have been here, I have been in this world for past 8 years, and I keep on seeing this happening. 1 year, 1.5 years, things will be bad. Then there will be followed by 3 years of basically euphoria. Then again, 1.5 years will be bad, and so on and so forth. So the objective is to survive. Objective is to raise funds in case you are a VC fundable business. Objective is to raise funds somehow, family, friends, angel investors, and keep on surviving this till this time gets over, and then aim for a bigger number in funding. uh, uh, but right now is not the time to think that okay, let me raise later. Whatever you want to raise, if you want to raise it right now. Don't basically put yourself in the company in danger by waiting too much. In case you have been approaching VCs and you are not getting a favorable response, then perhaps the time is to somehow elongate your runway, or park the idea for time being in case you are very uh, desperate to get funding, then park the idea for the time being and then come back after the environment is better. But I would say that still, for seed and for series A, companies are getting funded. If you have a decent idea, investors like it, they are happy to fund because they have lots of cash. Just the euphoria has died down and their risk taking ability has come down a little bit. That's it.
Let's move to the next question, sir. Abir, what space in the economy is most overshadowed with fear?
So actually, there is no space per se. Uh, it is across all sectors within the startup world. So there is no specific space in which it is impacted. But I am again repeating that this is problem which is more applicable for companies of my stage, which are larger companies in the startup world. Thankfully, we had raised funds last year, so we don't have an issue. But for I'm assuming that the audience in this group are basically seed and series A founders. So for you guys, the VCs still have enough cash, and you should approach them, and you should try to basically raise funds in case you need funds. In case they are not able to raise, then try to reduce your cost, pause it, or elongate it somehow. But is there any space in which investors are more cautious? Nothing like it. Generally, the euphoria has come down drastically because of whatever is happening in the US Nasdaq and the inflation rate in US and across the world. But my intuition is it will in next 6 months things are going to be far better because see, things actually get better later, but the market starts responding positively much earlier. So markets basically guesstimate as to what's going to happen next. So interest rates haven't risen that much in US, but markets have assumed that they will rise because they will most probably, and hence they have dived. But the moment the situation starts becoming better, even before that, the markets will move up.
So moving to the next question, Abhinav Mishra asks, the COVID-19 pandemic really slowed down the amount of activity by consumers, especially in physical purchasing and services. How did No Broker service these changes, and how do you navigate such a dynamic challenge from a leadership position?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for many of the businesses, COVID was a blessing, right? Because the digital activity increased. But for us, it was bad. Uh, so last 2 years were bad. In fact, now is a great time for us because now customers are coming back to the cities and they are renting apartments, they are buying apartments. But for us, the last 2 years were bad because people were moving away from their homes. I think the thing which worked for us was that we did not over focus only on one segment. So apart from real estate, we have a huge vertical, which is a packer mover vertical. We are into home loans, we are into rental agreement, we are into home ancillary services, we are into financial services of insurance, rent pay, uh, home insurance. So what we did was in the past 2 years, we over focus on that. When we realized that real estate is not gaining pace, then we focused on all the ancillary businesses, and thankfully, those businesses did really well. So it basically helped us cover that period. Now we are hoping that we should fire on all cylinders.
Okay, sir, moving to the next question. As an entrepreneur, one important skill that is often talked about is being a great storyteller. So, sir, Abir asks, I found your session extremely engaging. How did you develop these skill sets, and how important is it for budding founders?
I would say that apart from actually doing business, this is the most important skill of storytelling, uh, especially from the perspective of fundraise. I would say this is being a good storyteller is a very important skill. Not at a seed stage or series A stage, even at a decacorn stage. If you can't tell a story well, then things get much more difficult for you, and vice versa. And the reason is that because you are painting a story, right? Suppose you want your girlfriend to get married to you, you need to paint a story as to how the life would be, how you would take care of her. If you basically want to join a new team of musicians or players and you are not a part of team, you need to sell yourself that as to how you would add value to them. And the stakes become very high when you are trying to raise fund because the number that you have are very small. And you have this vision in your mind that, okay, I'm trying to basically do this big. And you need to communicate that vision to the investor and to the employees who are going to join you. Why will they leave their company and join you? Why would even a friend of yours will leave his company that he has got a job from after bits planning and leave that and join you in your company? So I think they are amazing storytellers in startup world. I think I don't think I am one of them. I think I am average, but generally I think that being able to think in your mind as to what do you really want to do and why it will become attractive for the person to whom you are telling the story. So keeping his, so one is that only think about yourself, that doesn't work. Also think about what the other party wants, what will make the other party excited. And if you have those aspects, try to highlight more of those aspects, because then you are able to really engage. Otherwise you are just saying a monologue. So try to think whether what is it that your girlfriend would want to hear and whether you have that. Or what is it that your teammate would want to hear, or what is it that your investor would want to hear, either in terms of scale or in terms of expansion or in terms of profitability or in terms of the huge market size. I'll emphasize more of those points. But this is a very good question.
Okay, so let's take the next question. Madhav asks, no broker works to eliminate the middleman in the property market, thus increasing efficiency by removing the middleman. In what other sectors do you think the possibility of setting up a business in this manner remains unexplored?
So I think in travel industry, in stock markets, it has already been done to a good extent. One of the markets where it remains unexplored is perhaps the agriculture market, because the market is so big and there are so many commodities in the market that I think still there's a huge opportunity to disrupt the mandis and the basically middlemen who exist between farmer and the consumer. So the price at which the price which farmer gets versus what we as consumer get, there's a huge difference, and that difference is basically taken up by a lot of middlemen. So I would say agriculture.
Okay, sir. So moving to the next question. I have a question from my end. So, starting in the early, 2010s, there was not so much usability of people using the internet. So there still existed some bias towards transacting physically and offline. So what strategies did you implement to cause a shift in consumer behavior to come to an online platform like NoBroker?
So I would say that we did not do much, and
Okay.
thankfully, none of us need to do much. The reason is that the entire wave is towards internet, and I think now it even feels odd to say that the wave is towards internet because everybody knows it already. I'm saying the look at the helpers who come in your homes, in your society, people who are in the lower income group. All of them have phones. Um, so a sweeper, while sweeping the street, who might not be earning that much, he or she also has a phone, and most of those phones are getting upgraded. Most of the phones are basically getting data, and their usage is increasing. You look at TikTok and ShareChat and a lot of social media platforms. I think huge number of consumers are coming from tier 2 and tier 3 towns, and the credit of this goes to telecom networks like Geo, which have come up with amazing plans. I think our job is to just survive. You have a good idea, just survive. आप जिंदा रहोगे, कस्टमर की प्रॉब्लम सही सॉल्व कर रहे हो तो कुछ हो जाएगा. Because that's what we did. We knew that we had a very long winter for funding, right? I don't think this funding winter will be that long. Why our funding winter was long? Because nobody trusted that our idea will work, and people were scared of the bad investment in real estate in India. We were able to survive 5 year winter by basically being jugadu. You find money wherever you can. You reduce your expenses. We never bought AC in our office till now recently because we want to save money. Despite having 18 crore rupees in the bank account, we did not buy AC. We rented a water cooler, not even bought, rented a water cooler to take care of the 2 months of summer in Bangalore. So be frugal, live like a cockroach, and make sure that you survive whenever there is a scarcity of capital. If you survive, if your idea is good, things will work out because somebody will notice you, customer will notice you, investors will notice you, and your business will basically flourish. So I think this offline to online entire world is doing. and every other app is educating your customers to how to use app and how to basically use technology. So that the world is doing, we just need to be around.
Fair enough. So let's take up the next question. So this is a question from our YouTube stream. Your experience with brokers in your initial years must have been extremely scary and demoralizing. So how did you keep yourself motivated in such situations and continue to go on?
I think many times you just put blinkers. You just don't think about it. You don't. Oh, so not only brokers but even competition. Many of our competition in earlier years were extremely with good founders, very strong companies, and very huge amount of capital and funding backing them up. But we just said, okay, we are just going to do what we are doing. We can't do anything about brokers. We can't do anything about competition, quality of competition, about competition raising funds or competition giving discounts or competition giving a lot of TV ads. We can't do anything about it. So we'll just focus on our customers. So sometimes this innocent optimism that you have as an entrepreneur, you think your idea will work because your customers are going to be with you and it's going to take some time. Sometimes that works. So we just put our blinkers on, we just kept on doing what made sense to us for years and years, and we used common sense. People said that we should expand to a lot of cities. We said no, we are not going to expand because we need to make this city customer happy first before we move to another city, and we just kept on pursuing this. And thankfully it has worked till now.
Okay, so let's take up the next question. Prabhat asks, you must have had considerable data regarding the movement of property demand and supply because of your platform. Is there any way in which no broker makes use of this tremendous amounts of trends related data?
So the answer is yes and also no. We use the data in terms of trends as to where we should, how we should help customers. So for example, if in particular area in Bombay the demand is increasing, so we will focus our efforts more in terms of finding properties in that area. But do we use this huge amount of data to target a customer more? We don't, because what I have seen is that whenever you misuse the data to sell much more to a customer, customers get irritated and they feel that this is the breakage of the trust, and then it doesn't work. So in fact, for me also, when I used to use other websites as a consumer for real estate, I used to feel irritated because they will just save my number and they will pass it on to hundreds of brokers, and the brokers will keep on calling me for years and years. And I felt it's a very violation of my privacy that my number is being sold to unscrupulous brokers for a couple of $100. So yes, we use data for identifying trends and for helping our customers, but at individual level, we never sell data. We don't show any ad on our platform.
Okay, sir. So let's take up our last question for this session. And this is quite an interesting question because it's one advice you would like to give to upcoming entrepreneurs, especially when there are a lot of other things and aspects to take on in college. What is the advice you would give on?
Sure. Before this, I will just take one question of Akshat that seems interesting, which was that
Okay, great.
how did you decide to start up in this particular industry, considering there were no really big startup success stories there? I think we basically, so Akshat, good question. I think what we thought is that, hey, does this problem make sense? Are we paid off brokers? Yes. So do we think that we want to deal directly with the owners, with the buyers? Yes. So we said, okay, we are going to focus on it. See, when you are trying to do something new, if you try to find a lot of proof points, how will you get those proof points? It means something has already been done, right? Then if you're trying something new, there'll never be complete data supporting it. But as a consumer, so the only way out is consumers. Speak to lots of consumers. We spoke to ourselves whether we like no broker. We spoke to a lot of strangers, and only when they said, then we felt that we should take the plan. So decision maker is always the consumer. Uh, so that's my short answer there. Yes, Pranit, the last question was in
So
terms
let's
of.
take one advice that you would like to give upcoming entrepreneurs, especially those in college when there's so many avenues to take on.
So I would say that don't get over impressed by people like me who come here and who give who give talks about startups. Startup is a difficult journey, and the success rate would be barely 10%. So 90 percentage would basically may or may not work. Yes, people from good colleges like Bits Plani may have a, or if you are intelligent, you might have a slightly higher chance than the average. So that is true. My session would be that do it for the right reason. You should find an idea, or you should believe in the idea that you want to pursue, because finally you are giving you're putting your career behind it, right? So what I'm trying to say is, don't do it because you have seen others being successful. That's only one of the reasons. You do it because you want to do it, and you are okay to take the risk. uh, and if you don't feel that calling right now, it is perfectly okay to take a job, work there for a year or 2 year. Because how can you be a great leader unless you have been a great follower first? So it's perfectly okay to find a good boss, to find a good mentor, work under somebody, see how it feels to work under somebody, and what type of frustration it can generate, what type of excitement can generate. So you can remember it when you are leading others. One is this. And the other thing is, but if you are in love with the idea that you have, you think it's a great idea and you want to pursue it, then I think that you just go ahead. Then the only thing which you should make sure is, make sure of your finances, because you want to pursue idea at least for a year. So in this year, if you have any education EMI, if you have your living expenses, expenses that will you will incur for running a business, make a broad calculation of that, and make sure that you collect that money. So either you collect that money from your friends, family, or you do a job and then collect the money. But collect the money for next 1 year. And if you are, because you don't want to launch something and then be frustrated within 3 months, so financially just collect the money for next 1 year and start. Because see, if you want to do something of your own, it's amazing time in India. There might be a winter for a 6 months to a year now, but it's amazing time. Generally, the customers are very very enthu and very very experimental of trying some new ideas. Internet has already swept the entire country, and lots of problems to be solved in a very broken country of ours. So the amazing thing about India is that everything is broken, and so many problems needs to be solved. And smart people like you are the right guys to basically do it for our consumers.
So, thank you so much for this interesting and engaging session, sir. A lot of comprehensive answers and great insight have been shared on your end, sir. A lot of learning for the students and entrepreneurs that we have watching today.
Thank you.
So, sir, over to you, Sarthak and Shrey.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for such an engaging conversation. It is fascinating to hear from you to the answers to some of the most sought after questions relating to early stage startups, surviving through funding winters, real estate, storytelling, and the Indian startup ecosystem as a whole. Coming up next, we have a panel with Mr. Vikas Chauhan, co founder of 1MG and Hexa Health, and Mr. Vaibhav Singh, co founder of Visit Health.